Let's be honest, the entire civilized world is rooting for Ukraine, this brave country that showed the world the immense power of a David resisting to Goliath. We all follow the news to ensure the Ukrainian army is doing well and regaining control of the lost lands. NATO is giving weapons and aid, some foreigners are willing to fight for their freedom, and in the meantime, Putin is alone and every day even more isolated. Even Belarus is hesitating to get to arms. This situation is exactly what we were hoping for, the Russians retreating and Ukraine slowly winning the war. But should we worry about this outcome? Let's find out, but before, tap like and subscribe. Let's start from this sentence made by Putin himself in public. Nuclear warfare only if the existence of Russia is threatened. Let's keep this sentence in our minds for the next minutes, okay? Why did you feel the need for this sentence anyway? We still don't really know what does Putin need from the poorest country in Europe. It could be that gas for UE passes through Ukraine, which demands a cut from the sale, and so Russia wants to keep this cost down. Maybe is it because Ukraine's land is rich of rare elements for nanotechnologies, but Russia hasn't yet developed such a refining industry. Maybe it's just because Putin thought that Ukraine wanted to join Russia, and this could be led by misinformation. Yes, misinformation. This simple word is what is leading to this day. Think about it. Everybody is being misinformed, even Putin. We were convinced since World War II that the Red Army was huge, efficient, dangerous, and capable of invasions of large scale. Are we still of this idea? Is Putin still of this idea? Russians were convinced that they could take Kiev in 3 days without shooting a single bullet, but welcomed on red carpet and flowers. Instead, they met a fearsome resistance that still today is holding well. This army of project managers, high school teachers and students is rejecting the Russian army out of their outposts. The Russian troops are slowly being left alone to fight a war in the cold without food, fuel, ammunition, with a low morale and without knowing why they are in Ukraine. They are misinformed too. They think they are liberating an already free nation from Nazism. Some of them think they are just training, and some don't even know they are in foreign land. Why isn't Russia sending more troops, fuel and ammunition if they have such a great army? Misinformation? Probably. Think about this for a second. Imagine you have in your hands an envelope containing bad news to give Vladimir Putin himself. You are a high-ranking officer in the Russian army or FSB. You are conducting a good life full of privilege that most people in your country can't even think. Will you risk being fired or worse by giving bad news? Or would you just say, no worries, it's all going as planned? Is Putin really informed about what's happening? We are not allowed to read their files, of course. I really believe that there isn't anything in the world more secret than military files. But let's think about it for a second. We thought the Russian army would break Ukrainian defense in 3 days, and still they are retreating. We thought they had the second largest army in the world, with the world's largest tank battalion, but many of their tanks are from the 60s and badly maintained. So much that the Russian army itself abandoned entire lines of tanks in the middle of the battlefield. Nobody is giving support to the troops. Moscow seems to have abandoned its sons to die in foreign land. Wounded soldiers are not even medicated or fed. Is this really how a great army behaves? And what about their nuclear warheads? They claim they have more than 5,000 of them. They claim. I repeat, there isn't anything in the world more secret than military files, so who really knows? But did you know that nuclear warheads expire? Yes. Immediately after a nuclear weapon is made, it's starting its decaying process. Bombs which depend on tritium have to be refreshed after just 12 years, otherwise they could not function anymore. US defense is spending literally billions of dollars every year to keep their warheads well maintained. Billions of dollars the Russian may not have. Instead, bombs which contain uranium or plutonium could last for thousands or million years, but these bombs are even more expensive to keep functioning. This is because gas-tight seals, electronics, batteries and the metal frame itself of the bomb could go under chemical deterioration that may make the warhead entirely useless and dangerous to store. So, how many of the 5,000 nuclear bombs Russia claims to have really work? Let's get back to what NATO knows. Well, let's start from a fact. Russians lie. They lie also to themselves, so they don't have to face the cruel reality that they suck. Not well equipped, not trained, not fed, not fueled, not motivated, they don't even know where they are and why. They just are not good at war. This is because they can only rely on tactics from the 1940s, last time they were at war for real. Being isolated means that you can't share information, technology, tactics and weapons with other countries, like for example NATO does. US does not feel good enough for war on the mountains? No problem, let's ask Italians for training on the Dolomites. And those Berettas may also come very handy. Russians can only count on their tech, their tactics and their weapons, and, unfortunately for their troops, their vehicles. This gives NATO some kind of confidence that it has never had before. It's almost like they knew that Ukraine could manage the Russian army by itself, right? Instead, the fearsome resistance by Ukrainians is a big surprise that avoided a global intervention. Like for example another world war, right? Maybe not. China also relies on Russian war science, and China is watching it failing. North Korea too. Belarus suddenly lost confidence and their president Lukashenko is somehow open to dialogue with Western governments. Maybe some countries, NATO and non-NATO, have some conflict still open with Russia and they feel like the time has come to reclaim some land. Japan wants back the Sakhalin and Kuril Islands given to Russia after World War II. Japanese still call those islands their northern territories. China claims the Outer Manchuria, the region above North Korea, now part of Russia, that was formerly belonged to a series of Chinese dynasties. This land is disputed since 1860s. Also, China is paying rent to Russia for 100,015 acres of land in eastern Siberia. It would be nice if they got this land for free. Finland claims the Karelia region since the 1920s. This is a huge region, almost 50% of the actual Finland. Georgia wants back Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Kazakhstan wants Russian troops out of their land. And then there is the Baltic exclave of Kaliningrad, claimed at the same time by Lithuania, Poland, Germany for historical reason, and weirdly Belarus, Russia's only ally. EU probably will promise this exclave to Belarus as a lever to force Lukashenko in changing colors and blocking their border to Russian troops and supply. And finally Ukraine, which will be granted everything they want and need as part of settlement. These nations may feel like the time has come, Russia will cease to be a superpower or cease to exist at all. But do you remember what we said minutes ago? Nuclear warfare is something we don't want, period. Millions of lives at risk and in an unpredictable way. How do you know your city is strategic? Remember, military secrets are almost impossible to know. US presidents don't, so what do we wish to know? Vladimir Putin is at the corner. We don't want to wake up the end of mankind for some territorial claims. They're so 1500s. But this is the right time to grab from Russia what we can while they're losing ground in Ukraine. And putting a stone on Russia's grave is something that the USA has always dreamed of. A news from these days is that NATO wants to build more bases in EU, specifically close to the Russian border. It seems like they're adding petrol to a fire already out of control, but it seems logic to keep Russians from invading another European country. It could be also useful to keep Western countries like Spain, Germany and Italy out of the games. If Russians lose the war, I believe that NATO would ask them to dismantle their warheads, or at least most of them, just to prevent them from menacing again about a nuclear war. This plan already started to take shape. Russian Ministry of Defense, even if the army is badly losing, is reporting that they are winning the war and that their special military operations are a success. At the end of the war, they will try to convince their people they are the winners, so Ukraine should care about reconstruction by itself. Russia will be rejected out of Ukraine. Unbelievably, they will claim victory and not pay a single ruble for the damages caused by their shellings. Then Russia will be cut out from the global economy for real this time and will be going back 30 years to the Soviet Union era. People already fled the country after the sanction and many more will follow after this propaganda disaster. But where to go? Who is gonna welcome Russian guests in their own home? Should we be worried? I personally believe we shouldn't, because NATO, up to this point, has showed caution and diplomacy. But what we have learned is that our future is not as bright as we wanted. In front of us, there is war and pandemic diseases, not what we wished for the 21st century. Our vision of life has changed and it's full of uncertainty. This January, Ukraine was a fascinating Eastern European country, with its cities vibrant for new opportunities, and what people got instead was the recipe for Molotov cocktails and bombs in kids' hospitals. We have learned that everything can change in a day and nobody is really safe. This is Vice Versa channel, hope you enjoyed, see you next time.